What is going on, you beautiful people? Tonight, we are going to be talking about optimizing your weight loss efforts with the good old Mounjaro, Ozempic, Wegovy, you name it. Yeah, that is what we're going to talk about today. So, I'm on kind of a different screen and setup, and I'm not 100% sure how this is all going to work, but hopefully everybody can hear me and there are no issues or concerns. Maybe, maybe not. Cool. All right, everybody. I'll give it like 20 more seconds here, but before we get jumping on, how's everybody doing tonight? Having fun? It's Tuesday. It's earlier than what I usually do. My whole week's been totally messed up because I thought it was Wednesday and Thursday, and then yeah, now it's Tuesday, and I still have the whole week ahead of me, and it's still going to be a very busy week. But hope everybody else is doing well, and sound is fine. Great, that's awesome, loud and clear. And see, you got a new haircut. I certainly did. Just trying to hold on to the what's going on top there as long as we can and try to keep it short on the sides, and we pull it all together. We don't do too bad. So um, sweet. All right. So I think we got a pretty good group and crowd going on here. So we will kind of jump into all the deets, and don't mind my whiteboard back there because it's got a bunch of chicken scratch and different ideas and stuff. But as I said, we are talking about all things that are Ozempic, Mounjaro, and Wegovy, and how you can ultimately optimize your weight loss efforts in this regard of things. Now, this is definitely a question that I often get, more so on the social media front, I would say. When people kind of work with me, we tend to just go over it anyways. But definitely from social media, other people that are in other parts of the world and maybe aren't working with me directly, they'll definitely reach out and ask, what can I do? How do I optimize the work that I'm putting in, the results that I'm putting in, or and that sort, and ultimately get the best outcomes possible. So for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. There's really nothing special or magical that I generally suggest or recommend. There's a couple of different foundational principles, I guess you could say, that I tend to follow and tend to recommend. And so, what we'll try to do here is I'll try to break each of those down. We'll kind of go into some detail around some of them, and then feel free to ask any questions or potential clarifications that you might need post me kind of talking and stuff. So one of the first and foremost things that a lot of people need to understand with these medications is that they're a tool. That's all that they are, right? They are just here to ultimately support the efforts and changes and things that you are trying to engage in and trying to do. They aren't going to be your end all be all. And if you think that change is going to happen without you making any change, well, unfortunately, you're going to be set up for eventual failure and thinking that said medication is not working. So that's very important to keep in mind. It's going to help and support you to do the things that you ultimately want to do. The other big thing that we need to look at is how, or I guess, what are the metrics that we're using to determine our success, right? How are we deciding whether we're moving in the right direction? How do things look? What is the long-term aspects of it? And when we're looking at these various metrics, are we utilizing metrics that we can control, that we can do something about, right? A lot of people tend to very much focus on the number on the scale, but hate to break it to you, you can't control that number. And to make that point crystal clear, if you can't tomorrow morning when you wake up tell me the exact number that that scale will read, so much so that you are willing to bet, $1,000, $10,000 on it, then you can't control it. It's going to be whatever number it's going to be. It could be up, it could be down. Sometimes we can kind of predict whether it's going to be up and down, but overall, we don't know exactly what it's going to be. And so if you're putting all of your weight and all of your efforts and everything like that, and whether you're being successful behind this metric that you can't control, well, you're going to get pretty disappointed pretty quickly when it is not going in the direction that you want. You're going to be looking at the efforts you're putting in and saying, what the hell is going on? Why am I not losing weight? I'm doing X, Y, and Z, but you're relying on a metric that just you can't do anything about. So looking and focusing on your metrics is very important to really understand and figure out what your metrics should be. A, can you control it? But B, do they fit into the larger picture of what you're actually striving for? So are you looking to, lose weight so that you can feel healthier and maybe be on less medications, but also looking at traveling one day or being able to keep up with the grandkids or keep up with your kids? What is the bigger picture that you're actually striving for? And do these metrics and things that you're looking at, do they fit into that, right? So as an example, I was working with somebody today, and one of their things that they wanted to do was they wanted to be able to keep up with their kids, okay? And so we looked at wanting to keep up with their kids. We then set a metric and a goal around that and saying, okay, we want to be able to keep up with them. What are going to be the things that are going to help you to do that? And what we came to the conclusion was that walking more is going to help them to have more stamina and more energy. Getting a better night's sleep, that's going to help them to do that. Eating more protein, building muscle, all of these things are going to be components that are going to help them to work towards that goal of being there and being able to keep up with their kids. And so our metrics would then be things like, did you go for a walk this week? Or when we plan to go for a walk? Or how many times did you go for a walk? And actually checking those off on a piece of paper or whatever and marking them down and looking back and saying, yeah, you either did it the 3 times that you had planned to, or you did it twice, or you did it once. Ultimately, that is your metric to know whether you are doing things that are moving you in the direction that you want to go. Similarly with, did you have protein at dinner every night this week, or 5 times out of the 7, whatever. Different things like that are ultimately how we kind of will create the proper metrics to know if we're being successful and moving in the right direction and whether we should keep going or what have you. The way that the scale and such that like that comes in is that, again, it's a tool to kind of say, yeah, are we aiming, or are we getting weight loss as one of our goals or whatever, kind of in that other aspect of it. And if we aren't, well, what do we need to change? What do we need to tweak? Yes, we are working on these things of increasing activity, getting more protein, but clearly we're not maybe getting a sustainable calorie deficit. Maybe something's going wrong on the weekends. Maybe we're not getting enough protein quite yet. Maybe we need to further increase that. And that's how you can kind of utilize that as kind of telling you some more information as to what changes you should make, or what changes you should make to that global overall metric picture and such like that. All right, so that's kind of setting the goals, figuring out the metrics to help you to be successful as you kind of chug along. The other aspects and components of things that you want to look at are going to be, what exactly are you doing from a nutrition perspective? What are you doing from an activity perspective? And even how are you managing your mental health and mental well-being? So starting with the nutrition piece of things, I'm sure you've heard it before from me, but my 4 rules, or 4 guidelines, if you will, are making sure that first, you're getting enough protein. Protein is super important. It's the king of the macronutrients. Your body can convert protein into carbohydrates. It can convert it into fat as it needs to. And protein is also necessary for helping you to feel full and satiated, but it also plays a role in maintaining and even building lean muscle tissue, which is going to help you, or which is your main metabolic engine. That's going to help you to maintain your calorie deficit, burn calories, lose weight, etc. Okay. The second guideline that I look at is eating consistently over the course of the day. Now, what I mean by consistently over the course would be whatever's going to work for you. It might be 2 times a day, it might be 3, might be 4, might be 5, might be 6. It's all going to depend on what's going to work for you. But trying to eat more consistently than just 1 time a day. It's kind of partly why fasting and stuff I'm not a big fan of. And the reason being is you need to eat consistently because, well, carbohydrates, your body is very good at storing those. Fat, obviously our bodies are very good at storing fat for later. But protein, our body does not do a very good job of storing protein. So we need to have pulses of protein going in over the course of the day in order to help us to make sure we're getting enough and to manage our appetite, those regulatory hormones and stuff like that that are going to affect us and make us want to consume, overeat, and that sort of thing. So that's what I mean by consistently eating over the day. It doesn't really matter how you do it, just being more consistent and making sure you're getting those nutrients in that you need to help manage things so that you can be successful. The third thing that I look at is making sure that you're eating enough. Now, there is no such thing as starvation mode. Your body doesn't suddenly hold on to fat when your calories get too low or anything like that. Ultimately, what's happening in those situations is that those people will eat very little calories Monday through Thursday, maybe even Friday potentially. And then their body and brain basically rebel come Saturday, Sunday, what have you, because they've eaten such a low amount of calories. So they end up binging and overeating on a whole bunch of food and ultimately blowing any kind of calorie deficit they created during the week. And in some cases, they may overeat to such a point that they actually are gaining weight or not losing weight, weight just staying and remaining stable. So that's what's happening in those situations where people are overeating. It's not that they're eating too little calories and their body's holding on to it. That just doesn't happen. So what's a better plan and approach versus trying to cut your calories way down Monday through Friday is to eat a more consistent and higher amount of calories over the course of the day, or over the course of the week, sorry. So a higher amount that gives you more of the nutrients that you need, but doesn't cause your body to freak out and flip out that you're not providing enough nutrients so that you then go into binging and overeating on the weekend. You're just taking in a more consistent, higher amount of calories that is more manageable for you in the long term. Cool? The final thing that I look at here is fiber. Now, fiber, fruits and veggies, that sort of thing, obviously very important for your health, great for our bowels. You really can't go wrong with fiber. More the better is really what you want to look at in this case. But I often talk about fiber in the aspect of trying to get our micronutrients. You see, if your brain and body detects that you're low on zinc, for example, you don't get a hankering to go and eat a zinc tablet or something. All you're going to get is a signal to go and find food, and it hopes whatever food you find has the zinc in it and the problem will be solved. If not, it will keep trying to get you to push you to go and eat and find food until that problem is ultimately solved. So if we're getting plenty of micronutrients in our diet, then we're not getting deficient in any kind of nutrients and causing maybe an overt signal to overeat and overconsume because you're deficient on some micronutrient or what have you. Okay. So that's the 4 principles in terms of nutrition. There really is no right and wrong way to go about it. If you want to use protein shakes, great. I'm a big fan of trying to use as much whole food as possible. But I myself, I have a protein shake every single day. It fits into my afternoon snack when I'm generally my busiest and trying to catch up on charting and stuff like that. And so it allows me to make sure that I'm meeting my protein requirements, getting a little bit of a snack in, and continuing on with my day without thinking about it. Yeah, and then finding what method and things are going to work for you is, again, the most important piece. If you like chicken, fantastic. If you like fish, awesome. The goal is just to get more protein of whatever the one that is that you like. You really, again, can't go too wrong. Ultimately, if you're reducing your processed food intake, if you're watching your saturated fat intake, you're pretty much going to be pretty golden. So don't overthink it too much. Start really small in those regards of things. So start with one meal, one snack, one particular component. Don't try to overhaul your entire diet because, well, if you've ever done a New Year's resolution, and maybe if you have one coming up here for January 1st, you probably know how well it goes when you try to overhaul everything and do all of it at once. It's not going to be a good time for you. Okay, that's the nutrition piece of it. Moving on, activity-wise, really, activity, it doesn't matter what kind of activity, it's just that you're getting moving. I see it all the time, whether at the gym or just people in general. and they want to look for that perfect workout. They want to look for that fat burning workout. They want to do X, Y, and Z in order to whatever. When it comes to activity, yes, we do want to find something that we do genuinely enjoy, and we're going to get a lot of potential benefit out of it and such. But again, it's more just getting your butt moving, finding what you can do and what you can incorporate into your day. It might be 5 minutes to start, and then you go to 10 minutes, and then to 20 minutes. Whatever it is, you just need to incorporate it and build upon it in order to help you to move in the direction that you want to go of being more active, keeping up with your kids, et cetera, et cetera. So that's really the more important piece of it. As you get more and more into it, yeah, you can start fine tuning and building programs and doing this and doing that and going to this class and whatever floats your boat and tickles your fancy and stuff like that. It doesn't really matter. But again, just start by getting moving, and then you can build and go from there versus trying to do it all at once and then backpedaling and trying to figure your crap out. All right. So that's kind of one of the components there. Now, a lot of people will also say, well, I just don't like activity. The funny secret is, or I guess the little secret is that in reality, nobody wants to go and work out. Like our bodies, our biology would much prefer us to sit on our butt and conserve as much energy as possible. For us to go out and expend energy 30,000 years ago wasn't a great thing. That could mean that we eventually die because we're burning up through our fat stores and that sort of thing. So you're not going to get this raring motivation to go and hit the gym and work out or anything like that. But going and doing it because of the bigger picture of keeping up with the grandkids, being able to travel without issues, et cetera, is going to be the reasons why you end up going and doing it. And you're going to have more days than not of not wanting to do it. You're going to have days where it sucks, but you're going to be happy that you went and did it anyways. And ultimately, the working out self piece of it, of the actual moment of it, I mean, I don't necessarily enjoy it. It's pain, to some degree, it's kind of suffering at times, but it's all the after effects that come with it. So I sleep better, my mood's better, I feel stronger, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of times you're not going to enjoy it. Yes, we can try to find the thing that you do enjoy or find tolerable or what have you, but it's not always going to be joyful and wonderful as some people may want it to be. It is going to be a challenge. You are going to have to push yourself. And to be quite frank, there's going to be times where you're either going to have to shit or get off the pot. So that's the exercise component. Doesn't matter what you're doing, really. If you can move towards more resistance training, fantastic, but just get moving. Now, the final piece here in terms of how you can optimize your efforts and the things that you're doing is going to deal a lot with stress management, psychological management, emotional management, and that sort of thing. And this is really all the crap that we all know we need to do, but none of us like to do it because, to be quite frank, it all sucks, right? It's going to be things like setting boundaries. It's going to be things like going to therapy and talking about the crap you dealt with growing up. It's going to be trying to go to bed earlier when you'd like to stay up because your entire day was robbed by work or what have you. It's all of these things that you'll fight against, and we've all fought against, because you don't want to do them. But again, it's part of that bigger picture in helping you to live healthier. So starting to practice it, starting to engage in these things, if you have a lot of unpacked trauma and issues and stuff like that, if you can afford it, working with a therapist, trying to get a good night's sleep, setting boundaries, looking at the things in your life that aren't working, the relationships that are maybe toxic for you, trying to work through them, trying to distance yourself from them so that you can be as healthy and in your best place as possible, is going to be a huge component. And if you're miserable right now, I hate to break it to you, but losing weight ain't going to fix your problem. You're just going to be skinny and miserable. Still going to be miserable. So that's a big important piece of it. Losing weight's not going to solve all the issues, as some people may make you think. Same thing with society will make you think. You've got to work on all that other crap to really be effective and ultimately strive and make the big changes in life. And in a lot of cases, you'll probably find that suddenly weight loss isn't the end all be all. and it's easier to focus on things like health and what have you. So that's kind of my overview and a lot of different components and aspects and avenues, if you will, in how you can optimize the results that you're hoping to see with these weight management medications. So yeah, we'll kind of open it up to questions, and yeah, happy to answer all the questions and whatever you guys got going on. But that's kind of the general overview and gist. Obviously, we could go into great detail on all the various things and whatnot, but hopefully that provides you a starting place, something to kind of build off of, and something to start incorporating into your life and your day to day. So yeah. All right. Good evening, Dr. Dan. Hello, Anna. How are you doing? Zoe R says, so true. Thanks, Zoe. I agree. I try to say as many true things as possible at times, and try not to beat around the bush. It's probably one of the harder parts of my job is not pussyfooting around with some things with people and just kind of being blunt and giving them the straight up reality. I've had a couple of people this week where we had to have a very blunt conversation, I guess you could say, and kind of establishing an understanding that in order to see changes, you have to make changes. You can't just keep doing what you're doing and just expect rainbows and wishes to potentially happen. I would love there to be $1 million in my bank account, or actually, just better yet, I would just love my student loans to go away. But that ain't just going to magically happen. I'm going to have to keep working and keep building my businesses, and then maybe things will happen. But it is the stark reality of it. So using these medications as a tool and understanding that, very important, and really coming to terms with some of the realities of it, but finding the balance and what ultimately is going to work for you in order to help you to be successful long term. Anna says, I've lost 57 pounds since April and I am diabetic type 2. So yeah, 57 pounds since April, that's quite a bit of weight. Yeah, generally I recommend, 1 pound per week is a pretty steady progress and such like that. Yeah, so that would be 52 pounds over a year. Again, it's going to vary person to person, how much weight you have to lose and that sort of thing. But kudos to you, Anna. Mr. Picklefoot. So the fiber I've added in my diet since, it feels like the shots stop me up and doesn't give me the feeling of being fully clear. Okay. So I'm assuming we're kind of talking about adding the fiber. You're now feeling a bit constipated and maybe not feeling as empty as you would like. Cool. Fair enough. And I mean, that certainly can be one of the aspects and things that we need to be mindful of and thinking about with regards to the fiber. The biggest thing to kind of look at is continuing to tweak and adjust and finding the right amount of fiber that's going to work for you. So it's going to provide the benefit, but not necessarily leading to constipation. Some of the first areas that I would be looking at is, what is your water intake? So kind of a way to think about it is fiber. If you get too much of it built up in the bowel and you don't have enough fluid and moisture and stuff like that, well, it can quite frankly turn into a bit of a sawdust kind of situation. And so we want to make sure we're having enough fluid going into the system. That 8 cups of water, great kind of analogy to start with. A lot of people will say, well, I get 8 cups of water, or I drink 4 cups of water, then I get the other 4 cups from food. Yeah, maybe we're kind of splitting hairs, but in reality, getting just 4 glasses of water is really the ideal to go with. So making sure you're getting enough fluid in the diet and that sort of thing is going to be key to helping and keeping things moving along. Then it's going to be looking at things like your activity levels. So part of what moves our bowels along and keeps food moving and stuff like that is the flexing of our abdominal muscles and that sort of thing. So doing activity can keep and help you regulate your bowel movements and such like that, and doing those sorts of things. And then, yeah, if those things are optimized and you're doing well there, then it's continuing to tweak that fiber. Maybe the fiber, you're getting too much insoluble versus soluble fiber and that sort of thing. So maybe you need to tweak and modify those things. In some cases, maybe we need to go to even higher amounts of fiber and things will then re-regulate themselves. There's a lot of different things that we need to look at in order to, again, optimize it. But that's the beauty of it, is you get to do a bit of trial and error and see what ultimately works for you and how you can get it to best work for you, if you will. Zoe R, have there been any updates to the Ozempic shortage? Sorry if you've covered this, I arrived late. So as for updates on the Ozempic shortage, here in Canada, yeah, it's getting to be a very annoying situation, if you will. That's been like 90% of my week, is trying to troubleshoot and figure out which people I can switch over, which people I can't, because overall it's getting pretty stark in some ways. It's very intermittent. There's some days we'll order some and it magically shows up. Other days we order and we think we're getting it and then nothing ultimately comes. What I can tell you is that, like, we're very, very rarely, like maybe once or twice a month, we're getting some of the 1 milligram pens, and usually it's only one. We're maybe getting now a couple of times a week, maybe 1 or 2 red pens at present. And so we have been told that the shortage is probably going to last until March of 2024. I mean, ultimately, I'll believe it when I see it. It's been this constant ongoing thing where they say the shortage is going to be fixed, etc. And it just hasn't been. So until things really get sorted out on the drug company's end of things, it's probably going to be a lot more longer standing issue and very much a month to month type thing, if you can get it at all. What I've been recommending is that if your plan does cover one of the other agents, such as Trulicity or Mounjaro, trying to make that jump and switch over there, and seeing how that can better support you and ultimately help you to be as successful as possible going forward. Because Ozempic is pretty hard to come by. Anna says, question, I'm on 15 milligrams of Mounjaro, will go down to 12, then 10. Question, does your body stop at a point to lose weight? So it's not so much, I mean, your body, as you lose weight, what ultimately happens is that your body is going to adapt, right? So, I mean, first and foremost, your body doesn't want to lose fat to begin with. 30,000 years ago, we go back to living in our caves and stuff like that. Losing weight meant there wasn't any food in the environment. It was bad news bears, and it very well could mean that we're going to die. And so our body has a number of mechanisms that it's able to kick in order to try and maintain your current weight, or at least get you to gain weight. And these mechanisms are partly what motivated us to get up off our butts and to go hunt and gather and, hunt for a woolly mammoth or what have you. But these are other things in terms of our metabolic rate can get slowed down, so our body becomes more fuel efficient with what food we are putting in. Our body will get you to stop moving as much, so spending more time sitting on the couch. A really good example that I always use is that when I was prepping for my bodybuilding show last year, every day when I was living in my condo, I lived on the 4th floor, I took the stairs every day. As soon as I got really, really deep into my cut and was just about to step on stage, going up the stairs was like such an arduous task that I took the elevator. And it was only 4 floors, but took the elevator just because I could not be bothered with the stairs. And so in little micro ways, your body's, how much you burn just by physical activity and stuff, starts to go down. So that's going to be another piece as well. Just as you get smaller, you physically burn less calories, right? You don't have as much tissue, as much weight and that sort of thing that you're carrying around. So you're going to consume and burn less calories on a day-to-day basis. So all of that is going to compound. And if you stay at a certain calorie level, eventually you'll reach a point where that calorie amount that you're eating is ultimately equal to how many calories your body is burning. And so you won't lose any further weight. And so that will happen at some point in time. And that's always a point where people need to kind of check in and ask, okay, do I want to lose more weight? If I do, can I make the necessary changes, like increasing my activity, trying to eat less, that sort of thing. If you can, fantastic. Then yeah, you can get into a calorie deficit and you can keep losing weight. If you can't, well, then you've got to come to terms that that is the weight that you're going to have to stay at. That would be what we call your best weight. So that's the weight that you reach when you're eating the least amount of calories possible and doing the most amount of activity possible that you can honestly enjoy and ultimately sustain into the long term. So that's kind of how, yeah, we kind of think about it. And I think I added a bit more to your question and stuff, but hopefully that all makes sense. So yeah, your body will slow eventually and stop. You'll just kind of stabilize and reach that equilibrium. Same thing as you're losing weight, the weight loss is going to get slower and slower and slower. And the more weight that you try and lose, the harder it's going to be to lose further weight. Every pound you lose, the more that your body is going to fight against you in order to, stop you from losing more. So hope that helps. On the pen with Dave. How's it going, Dave? Glad you could join us. Yeah, if you guys haven't checked out Dave, he's doing some good stuff. He's the man on Mounjaro. I actually did an episode with him, I think it was like over a month ago now, something like that. But yeah, definitely go check out his channel. He's doing a lot of really cool things over there and sharing his experience with the good old Mounjaro. I think they have, yeah, because Dave's down in the States, and I'm pretty sure you guys actually have the fancy dangled Mounjaro pen, the single dose pens, versus having to draw it up in the single dose vials like we do. You guys see that? Yeah. So these are little vials that Mounjaro comes in, single dose, no preservative. We have to use old school insulin syringes and draw them up and everything. Still pretty easy to do, but it's just kind of more of a pain in the butt. The company did this because they wanted to get their drug to market a little bit more quickly, because ultimately there is a shortage with the plastic to make the pen and also the preservative that we use in these kinds of medications and stuff. So Zoe, so frustrating for you to deal with. I hope it gets sorted. Zoe, I really hope it does as well. I think I'm kind of getting a good rhythm down with it. It's just a matter of when like 6 patients all come in at once and they're like, I need a refill of Ozempic, and trying to balance and figure that out, because it's probably 25% of people, I would say right now, have some kind of coverage for it. A lot of the insurance companies have been slow on the uptake and getting coverage and stuff like that all sorted out because it just came to market. There's a whole pile of reviews and all this other crap that they have to go through, and certain companies like Green Shield work glacially slow and probably won't be approved until 2024 sometime. So a lot of hurdles to overcome, but we are managing. And what's that meme of the hamster and little thing? Is that the whores persist, but so do I, or something like that? So we're doing it. Anna, thank you, Dr. Dan. Love you on Man of Mounjaro. Awesome. Well, yeah, it was a good time. Mr. Picklefoot, do you recommend super greens for your patients? I drink them and absolutely love them. So it's kind of one of these things again. They work for you, they work for you. I generally don't recommend it. It can be a way to kind of supplement and get some of those micronutrients in and stuff like that. Again, I'm always a big fan that if you can get your nutrients, protein, all that kind of stuff from like whole food sources, fantastic. But if you need to supplement with something like super greens and kind of incorporate them into your diet and that sort of thing, awesome, fantastic, that's great. It's going to be beneficial, it's going to be helpful for you, and it's going to allow you to get those things. Make sure you're still eating some kind of veggies and whatnot like that, but if it works, it works. That's really the most important thing. So go for it. But no, I don't specifically recommend them unless there would be some extenuating case where someone is really struggling or what have you and stuff. But yeah, awesome. Glad they're working for you. Sweet. All right. Lots of good questions. Hope that was beneficial for everybody. Speaking of talking about all this food, I need to go and eat another meal of mine and finish up some charting, and then I think go to bed. I'm also moving this weekend. The whole concept of moving is just awful. And I don't know how my 2-bedroom apartment, how there is so much crap in so many boxes. Like, I just don't know where the stuff comes from. It's a whole optical illusion thing that I just blown away by. And just moving is just awful, 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 awful. So yeah, that will be my weekend. Other than that, you beautiful people, I think I'm back on Wednesday next week. I have no idea what the topic is because I cannot remember, but I will look it up and we'll be posting about it this coming week and into next week and such like that. And yeah, to the American folks, happy Thanksgiving. Have yourself a wonderful turkey dinner. And please, for the love of God, remember, one meal, one weekend is not the reason that you're going to fail and gain all this weight and everything like that. It is literally the ongoing, continuous things in that respect of continually overeating that causes the weight gain. So be sure to enjoy yourself. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. Check out all those Black Friday deals. Um, and yeah, be sure to tune in here next week. So I'll talk to everybody later. Doo, doo, doo.